Tension is rising once again on the front lines. Russia says the war will continue without pause as long as Ukraine refuses to sit down at the negotiating table. And the Kremlin warns that when talks finally happen, Kiev will be coming in from a far weaker position. Tonight, we break down what Russia's message really means, the battlefield pressure behind it, and how this could shape the next stage of the conflict. Stay with me. This is a major shift you need to understand. The war between Russia and Ukraine continues to evolve, and diplomacy remains out of reach. This week, the Kremlin made a blunt announcement. If Ukraine refuses peace talks, Russia will continue its campaign without hesitation. This message came through the voice of Dmitry Peskov, the Kremlin's press secretary, who confirmed that Moscow sees no sign of readiness from Kiev to restart dialogue. According to him, Ukraine's refusal leaves Russia with no alternative, except to push forward militarily. The comments followed an interview given by Ukrainian Deputy Foreign Minister Sergei Kislitsa. Speaking to The Times, he revealed that Ukraine had stepped away from direct discussions with Russia. He explained that 3 negotiation rounds in Istanbul earlier on made almost no progress. For that reason, Kiev abandoned the process, and no official meetings have been held since the end of July. His remarks confirmed what many analysts had observed, that diplomatic channels, already fragile, have been completely silent for months. When Peskov was asked about Kislitsa's statement, he said Moscow had taken note of it and considered it important. He described the situation as a formal confirmation of what was already happening on the ground. Ukraine is unwilling to engage in further talks. Peskov called this unfortunate, but said it leaves Russia with only one strategy: to keep advancing through military means. Peskov then delivered a warning. He stated that sooner or later, Ukraine will have no choice but to negotiate. But, according to him, by the time that moment arrives, Ukraine's bargaining position will be far weaker than it was earlier in the war. He claimed that the situation for the Ukrainian side is deteriorating every day and will continue to do so if diplomacy remains blocked. This message was aimed not only at Kiev, but also at the international community, signaling that Russia believes time is on its side. The Kremlin's confidence is connected to several recent battlefield developments. Last month, Russian President Vladimir Putin said that more than 10,000 Ukrainian troops were pinned down in 2 major locations, around the Kupyansk area and near the Krasnoarmysk Dimitrov zone, also known as Pokrovsk-Mirnograd, in the Donbass region. Russian officials claim that their forces have tightened these encirclements even further, making the situation more difficult for Ukrainian units. They also announced the capture of the eastern part of Kupyansk, a symbolically important location that has seen intense fighting since the early phase of the conflict. These battlefield updates form the backdrop behind Peskov's warning. Russia believes it is gaining momentum. Despite the harsh tone, Peskov said Russia remains open to political and diplomatic solutions. He insisted that Moscow prefers peace over fighting, but that peace must address what Russia calls the core issues that led to the war. He emphasized that as long as talks are frozen, Russia will depend on its military power to secure what it sees as the country's long-term safety and to complete the tasks set by its leadership. Russia has repeated several conditions it considers essential for any future agreement with Ukraine. These include a guarantee that Ukraine will never join NATO, a reduction of Ukraine's military capabilities, what Russia describes as denazification, and recognition of the current territorial realities on the ground, including areas under Russian control. Moscow argues that without these commitments, any future peace deal would only lead to another conflict down the line. Ukraine has so far rejected these terms, calling them unacceptable. Kiev insists that negotiations cannot be based on the surrender of territory or security sovereignty. As long as both sides maintain completely opposite demands, Diplomacy remains out of reach. The message is clear. Russia says the war will continue unless Ukraine returns to the table, and Ukraine says the conditions for talks are impossible to accept. This stalemate leaves the conflict on a dangerous path, one where military pressure replaces communication and the chances for peace grow thinner with each passing day. What do you think about Russia's warning? Will Ukraine eventually return to negotiations, or will the conflict continue to escalate? Share your thoughts respectfully. Your voice matters here. If you find value in these deep dive updates, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next major development.